But
why did you want to have 5 children?
I don't know. It just something came into my head, and but what happened is that in the meantime, in my exposure, coming in contact with people, they say, "Why don't you do some modeling?" At that time, modeling was in the infant stage. See, the only person that had anything to do with modeling was John Robert Powers. He had a school and had a little agency. Ford and all those others, they came even after me, but they weren't around then. So different people would see me. And Johnny Johnson started just, I think, a year before I started. So
started Ebony Magazine.
Ebony Magazine. So
right.
They needed models here and there, and different ones needed models for little odds and ends. So they would say to me, "Well, why don't you do some modeling?" And I had a background dancing and piano and all the other things of the arts that you know your parents give you to make you a lady. And so I would pose and whatnot. So then someone said, "Well, look, you have a background in modeling and you have this and that, so why don't you give the same kind of experience to our people of color, so we can open an agency for models, and then this image that you need to, positive image that you are interested in, could be the carrier for the positive image, the modeling business could." And that's how I got into the business angle. Someone talked me into it because I had done some modeling and whatnot, but it was only a few jobs around in those days. You know, they didn't use blacks for anything, but there are a few thread companies, a few people, a few hair companies were doing some things.
And so if you were interested in modeling at that point, what you knew that there were certain companies
Yes.
that would consider using black models?
Correct.
And you would go to those, but you would basically avoid the rest of them because there was no point.
Yeah, there was no point. Well, and I didn't look for modeling jobs. I just happened to be recommended by people at Ebony Magazine, you know, some of the salespeople, or by friends who would recommend somebody. But there were my cousins, and 3 other people that thought this was a good idea, and we got together on the idea of using the model as a way of communicating the positive image for people of color. Because the modeling business in those days, you had to be squeaky clean. You couldn't have anything negative about you, because the company would destroy their products, you know, or it was very taboo.
So you couldn't be Paris Hilton, for instance.
No way. No way, no way. So
well, now, did you ever, when you were first starting out doing a modeling job here and a modeling job there, were you ever turned away from a modeling job because of color?
No, because the ones that I was doing were recommended by black people anyway. Now, the only time I did encounter something in reference to segregation is when I said, well, if I'm going to be teaching models, then I need to go to a modeling school in order to get a background. You see, for me to do it, that's one thing, because, you know, the photographer can help you be a good model. You got a good photographer. A good photographer can make a monkey a good model, you see. So what happened is that I said, well, I better go to school. So Vogue had a school of modeling on 57th Street, so I decided I'd go to school to get a formal background, which I did. And, well, I'm so naive, you know, about things. And I was not a very worldly kind of person. You know, my mother was very protective. My family was very protective. And when she said I should do something, I didn't do it. See, I didn't smoke, didn't drink. I didn't do all these things. I was a little kooky. And so what happened is that I was just about finished the classes. Now, I didn't know they didn't know. I thought they knew what I was, see.
When you went to enroll.
Yeah.
But it turned out that they thought you were white.
Exactly.
And
see,
how old were you at that point? You were.
I was about 15 or 16. No, I was older than that. I was about 18. I was about 18.
So yeah. you were already at NYU?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So what happened is that then a little girl came in, and she was brown, cafe au lait, and oh gosh, everybody was going crazy. What are we going to do? What are we doing? And I couldn't figure out what was going on. And then they came in, they said, oh, here's somebody who's black, somebody, I don't know what they call them, whether it was black, whatever it was. Oh, we don't know what to do with them. Then I realized that they didn't know what I was. But she started speaking Spanish, and they didn't take her in anyway because they didn't know what to do with them at that time. Mm-hmm. That was back in 1946, 47, yeah.
Now, how did that make you feel? Did it make you feel vulnerable at that point? Because here you were in a situation, they didn't know that you were black,
yeah.
But clearly, if they did, yeah. Perhaps there might have been consequences, no?
Yeah, and I had just about finished anyway, you know, on my classes. But I didn't need anything beyond what I was going to get finally. I didn't need to say I'm black too. If it had some reason I needed to say that, it would have been different. I had to say it. I've had to say at different times that I was black. I remember when Ronald Reagan appointed me to be on the advisory commission at the John F. Kennedy Center. We were having a meeting. The committee was having a meeting, and someone said, "Well, he hasn't appointed any blacks, and I don't know why." And so I said, "I'm black." See, but I didn't have to say it necessarily a lot of times.
Right.
See,
yeah.
but when I was in that instance where at Vogue School of Modeling, I went to get a background, and it was no reason for me to say I'm black.
Well, when you finished the course, did they send you out on assignments? I mean, is that the normal thing?
No, for school you just get the training, and then they sent me to a photography to get photographs, and that was the end of that.
Did you enjoy modeling? I mean, did you enjoy being in front of the camera?
I did a little modeling, but it wasn't what I was looking for. It wasn't my mission. It just happened to be something that I needed to do to communicate the message, communicate the mission that I wanted to have communicated in a positive way. And that was the vehicle that I used. It was the vehicle that I used to communicate a positive image of my people, because I wanted to, not only me to be accepted on a top level, I wanted everybody to be accepted as human beings. Now, I don't mean socially. I'm not talking about social. I'm talking as human beings. So that was the vehicle that was not tainted, because it had just started. The modeling business was in the infant stage in 1946. The modeling had just started. That's it. It was only John Robert Powers around. And so it was new. And I bought into that new vehicle that we had and said, let's latch onto that and take our image where it needs to be.